Yes, hello, Coach Times viewers and the general audience. My name is Awali. Yes, I'm a lawyer, I'm a human rights activist, and like I always say, I'm also a potential parent. I'm very privileged to be making an interview with Coach Times Uganda. Yes.
Yeah, okay, introduce yourself generally, more. I want to know introduction. Is shown the education background, the family, and you are from which area of Uganda?
Yes, now Sean Awal actually comes from Bale, yes, Eastern Uganda, Bale. That's where I actually did grow up. Of course, growing up as any other young person with lots of desires in life, having to go through a situation whereby you're not aware about the kind of how you have grown up, how you are in terms of, we're talking in terms of sexuality, in terms of, gender identity and all the like, and the confusion there too. So I came up experiencing a lot, just having to watch a lot of young people in the areas that I come from being subjected to, to mob justice, to, this kind of being arrested arbitrarily, being treated in a way that seemed not fair, even though at that time, in point, I wasn't very, in terms of the law, I hadn't learned the law so much, but that was quite a motivation to me. I thought, well, if this is what happens, then I think I ought to do something around the legal area. And it's around that point in time, when I was around my senior 5, that I think I should take on law, and when I take on the law, I should measure in human rights. I should get to find a way of procuring justice to the marginalized groups, and the justice would be in form of access to human rights, in a form of contributing to access to health, for these populations, because a lot has gone through in their lives. You find that there is a lot of attitude in the society. People are looking at, for example, a transgender woman in a way which is unwelcoming at health centers. The society is seeming not to be able to, to accommodate these people. So a lot of things come up. Now, what does Sean do? Sean comes up and decides he should come and study law. So I get to study law at a university in Bali. I finished 4 years of law school. But before finishing those years, I thought what should be the most immediate thing that I have to do to make sure that I make a contribution. Now here is where one of my colleagues and I at law school come up with an idea of starting an NGO. Now the NGO's aim was meant to be able to address the injustices in access to health care by key populations. Now by key populations, we looked at the populations that are at high risk of contracting HIV/AIDS, the marginalized populations, and specifically we looked at the LGBTQ and sex work populations. Now this organization, Triumph Uganda, we came up, we brought a lot of interventions. Of course, like any other organization, we didn't have funding. Yes, we didn't have funding. Neither should I qualify the same for now. But because it is an initiative that comes out of our own hearts that we think should be able to create an impact in people, we pulled our little personal resources as well as those meager solicited funding to be able to start up programs. And I speak right now, Triumph Uganda has established itself as an organization in Eastern Uganda based in Bali with a high focus on Stronko and Toro districts in promoting health access, specifically looking at HIV/AIDS, which seems to be the most pressing and the most disturbing problem within these populations. We have also gone ahead and provided an avenue for these populations to come up, express themselves, have a feeling of social inclusion. We have also been able to take it to local leaders that have been able to come on board and address these challenges together with us. And of course, I cannot say all roads are smooth. We have had a lot. We have had our bad sides. We have had situations where our officers have been not once or twice, been kind of attacked. Yes, we had this scenario where we had one of our clients who also identified as a member at that particular time, being attacked and taken to police. And because, at the same time, our own authorities have seemed to have not been, I wouldn't say not taught, but they seem to have not been given a taught on say, attitude towards these populations. Even though we were able to secure her release, yes, with the help of our partners, our development partners, we were able to secure her release. It, however, motivated us further to be able to make the law or legal knowledge, procedures, part of our work. Now this comes in context with what I do as myself. At this point in time, as I move to be able to practice law in Uganda and other related countries, I have had a lot in terms of self-education on the most crucial areas. We have been able to look at human rights. So what are the prevailing human rights that are supposed to be looked at as taking care of all the populations? And this is clear cut, and it's clear cutting. The law is very clear in Uganda. When you look at the constitution, what does it say? It provides for fundamental human rights to each and everyone, and your life has to be, kind of guarded. So irrespective of gender, irrespective of race, irrespective of age, and then the law also provides for such other spheres as can be proved by history. And you have had a lot of historians, explaining to us, giving us emphasis, saying, homosexuality is dated, comes way back from, different cultures. So this suits into history. But then how do we protect the rights of these people? Now, it doesn't mean, now because a young person is identifying as an MSM, or a man having sex with a man, should actually not be able to access health care. Now, in line of this, that I come up to be able to provide not only legal advice, but also education to the public who may not be actually aware of what they are meant to do, even when they would have done the right thing had they been aware. And at this time, I hope that when I accomplish my law school, I will probably do strategic litigation as well. I'll be able to support these young people, to support people around, to access justice, to create an environment that is very friendly to everyone, to be able to also request people who are key players. Like, we have a lot of key players within the country. We have other organizations, we have funders, but we have not had this chance to be able to associate with them in a more effective, in a more contributing way, because we probably have not had a voice yet. Most of our work has been in the communities we work, has been in the courts as well, but they have not been published, and now we have been left out. We have situations where someone would be in another part of the country and ask, and you tell them, hey, can you please help Triumph Uganda? And then the person will ask you, we'll probably call Triumph Uganda something else because they are not aware. But it's at this point in time that I come up as a young person who knows the need that the Kuchu communities, that the LGBTI community in Uganda need, come up and request the assistance, the concerted effort of everyone to contribute to the well-being of the society. It could be a financial donation, for example, to Triumph Uganda's projects. It could be a moral support. It could be a support for the laws that are accommodating or in any way otherwise, and that is very welcome.
Okay, Sean, what, according to you people who work on sexual minorities in the country, what are the biggest challenges facing Kuchu's country compared to the ones in the city?
I think you find that some areas are probably the same, that even when people are in the city, the attitude has not changed so much. But then there is that instance where the LGBTI people who are up country, say in areas that we have worked in, I'll remind you that actually as Triumph Uganda, when we looked at the focus in the areas, we looked at peri-urban areas, not urban, not so deep in the village, but peri-urban. Now, these societies have quite faced a lot. There is no exposure in terms of understanding of the communities back there as those in Kampala or other parts. So there is probably that very, very big problem. And also, the information availed is only remaining in the cities. There's no information to those people who are actually upcountry, who are outside the city area. And like I should say, and I emphatically say this, information is very key. Because when someone is informed, they'll be able to know that actually I need to access healthcare. They will know that actually I should be able to go ahead and do this if something happened, if I was arbitrarily arrested, if I was tortured. This is the avenue to address this. I mean, it looks like the communities back there are actually left, they're out of that.
I wanted much to talk about Triumph Uganda. Actually, like for example, what you have talked much about the project and everything. How have you been coordinating with those maybe urban organizations? How is the coordination between upcountry and yeah?
Okay, now that's a very, very important area. Now, Triumph Uganda, like I said, this organization, we came up in 2014 as an organization. And though at that time our operation was very limited, not only due to resources, but as a beginning time. So we actually mainly worked within Mbale district, and it was actually closing to 2016 is when we moved in now to Sironko and Tororo. Now in 2016 is when we officially were registered. However, at that time we were registered as a community-based organization, so our jurisdiction was still very, very limited. However, later in closing in 2017, we got another registration, now which allowed us to operate actually nationally. Though our focus now is within the eastern Uganda for now, measuring in those three districts, Mbale, Tororo, and Sironko. Now, how have we worked? Yes, I think I should, of course, give credit to some of the urban organizations that have already been able to partner with us. For starters, we have other organizations, the MAPS network, in terms of helping in advancing HIV/AIDS interventions for the communities. These have been they've been very collaborative with us in providing the necessary education, health education, yes, to these populations, and as well as our major key player and partner, Sexual Minorities Uganda. Yes, who have come up not only to provide us, the kind of platform, through which to tailor our services, but to also give us that kind of, that kind of impression that we can actually do much. So we have that kind of relationship, but this is not enough, because we know that there are actually more organizations in Kampala that have not yet been able to be in touch with us. And a couple of times we have written to a number of organizations, and fortunately, urban organizations, especially around Kampala, seem to be only, they seem to have specialized on the particular key populations they work on, and they have this very lengthy process of having to work partnering with another organization. But we hope that with time we shall be able to work with these organizations in a way that we can be able to, when we provide services, the documentation reflects exactly what is in which particular area, what are the needs of the particular area, and as a country, as a whole, what are we doing? Because if we do not have a good connection, we may not be able to provide data in a more conclusive way. We may not be able to guide each other as an organization. So this is a very important area, and as well as funding, because right now the organization still runs on member contributions. We do not have a funding associate, and we realize that the different donors we have approached have only given us task to go through other organizations they have already been able to extend funding to, which remains quite now a wrong procedure, not until the organizations so mentioned have actually come around to work with us and then you can access that funding. So we do call upon the well-wishers, the funders, the people who have desire to see that key populations access health, access social inclusion, access human rights interventions, come up and support our work in all ways you can.
Okay, thank you. And I wanted to ask, now this is about school. How do you relate in school? Are you like out your and how do some people know about your sexuality at school? How is it?
Well, thank you so very much. Now it comes to school. Yes, being a leader of an executive director of Triumph Uganda, an organization that is working to help the marginalized or key populations access the different services that have been enumerated, and then at the same time I am pioneering, I am actually engaging in the final bit of my academic career that will enable me, to take on litigation. It means I've had to have a shift, of course, from one area to another, but then at the same time, coordination remains working as an organization. At organization, we actually work as a group. We have different sections. I am the director, but we have a board of directors. We have a board of administrators. We have the administrative team. So everything works in well, and I do the coordination even when I am not there, but of course quite often I go there. Now what happens at school? Now in an academic environment, I will not hesitate to tell you that we have not yet reached a level whereby in an academic setting we can freely even inform our friends that this is the kind of alienation we have in terms of sexuality. But then it does not stop us to be part of those people, to be able to go for the same goals, even in a passive way. Just after all, at the end of the day, get the qualification, be able to do what you have to do, which is in the interest of your heart desires as well as the nation at large. Because what we do now is actually something that is meant to impact the world. In fact, I say the world, it crosses the border. It looks at humanity in particular. So I should say my colleagues at school are very fond of me. They're not fond of my sexuality because that is privy to me. It's privy to me. It is a personal. Even if I were straight, I wouldn't, tell my friends, you know what? I am studying with you, but I am so straight, and it's personal. Nonetheless, I am very happy that I'm in professional of noble people who understand things. A couple of times with our lecturers, we get to talk about sexuality, in fact, in terms of an academic learning. And most times I give very objective information to it. And even when someone will cross eyes, but a couple of those who understand, that it's a learning process. And that's how we go. And I am very, very sure that people who are outside there, especially the LGBTI community, those that think by being either a gay man, by being a transgender man, you are not in a position to influence, the public. You're not in position to take over what actually any other person will take on is wrong. Irrespective of what you are, you can be able to be a leader in the country, influence change, and do what you can do. But what is important is how you carry yourself with the people around you. Let's not take sexuality to be the only thing that defines us. We are much more than that.
I like it for that statement. Now, what is your final advice to these young kuchus, who still have the chance to maybe to gain education from their parents and everything, but then they just run off from parents, then start meandering around and here. And yet these people in school, they were very bright and they could make a change. What is your message to these such people?
Yeah, I think I think let's take, I don't know, we as lawyers, let's say take every case by its facts. But when it comes to these young people, yes, we know there are very many reasons why young people would run out of school or run out of home. Yeah, we have instances of our young people who have been expelled from schools by virtue of their sexuality. Yes, it would be wrong to actually express, the romantic feelings in an academic environment. And if that was the reason of expulsion, then I wouldn't have so much to say about it. But I'm talking about by virtue of knowing that this person is gay. I mean, that is very wrong. Because these people did not actually wake up and choose to be born that way. So they ought to have been left in the schools. They're being to go up by their lives as it is possible for as long as the same does not in any way antagonize or affect the progress of the other people that they relate with. Now what happens? I think that the young people are getting so excited because we are living in a society where we were not aware of actually what we were. We did not know that actually sexuality is diverse. So these young people get to learn about this at a later at a tender age, and it comes probably in a wrong way. It comes maybe in a newspaper or something, and they get so excited that they reach an extent whereby the people living around them are not able to tolerate them. And then when they can tolerate them, they are running away from homes. Where are they ending? If they are not in refugee camps in the other parts of the nation, outside the nation, they are either in the cities. Yes, and the end result is what? They're going to end up, doing what they wouldn't have done had they been in the right way. So what the better way to put this right? Let's get back to parents. Let's try to influence attitude of understanding, of parenting, of knowing the better way of handling children, irrespective of what they are. Let them remain in schools. And if poverty is the case, let us go ahead and provide for, provide ways in which poverty as well can be alleviated in those families to be able to keep their children there. Now, this takes me back to Triumph Uganda. We have this program of economic empowerment. Now, in this program, we actually look out for the society, in the society for the communities, where you find in a household, they are not able to fend for themselves. Yes? Because either there is no job in the family, or particularly this person was outed as gay, and this impacted on them and this and this. So what we do basically is to find out what can that family, together with the other family and the next family, do in concert and be able to have a living. Now, if we can establish the same, for example, a couple of families that we have impacted as Triumph Uganda have engaged in a little commercial things like charcoal selling, agriculture, and the like. And those families have been able to keep their children around and study, and that is a very important thing in society.
So finally, as we wrap up, what is your final message to lawyers, fellow of the legal fraternity, and then general maybe the other mainstream community as we wrap up, and also maybe to the mainstream coach community? Those are three: legal fraternity, the major, the public, the government, and the coach community.
Thank you so much.
Just briefly.
Thank you so much. Well, I think I've quite talked a mouthful, but this will be very important. Now, when it comes to the coach community, I think I would like to inform you or to ask you to utilize the meaning of the word perseverance. Be able to persevere in whatever you do. Ensure that what you do is something that you keep doing for as long as it is right, for as long as it is legal, for as long as it does not affect any other person. Try to make sure you guide your life in a way which is appropriate. Try to seek medical care where it is supposed to be sought. Try to ensure that you do not make yourself a nuisance of society, because sexuality does not mean you are going to end up being a disgust of society by the creation of yourself. Now, to the legal fraternity. Now, this is our creation. The law is a very, very noble profession. But how noble is it? The nobility of the profession should be defined by your impact in society. I think the lawyers should be the very first people who stand up for the rights of all human beings, irrespective of all other attributions. And it's at this time that I would like lawyers to come up and not make issues as regards gender identity, sexuality, human rights as a money-making process, but rather a lifelong initiative to ensure that you uphold that for which you went to law school, that for which you need to be doing, and also support some of us who are human rights activists in our work towards seeing that the same human rights are upheld for all members of the public, irrespective of whether they are this or another. And the general public, it is time that we forget our previous history in terms of persecutions of people of different sexualities, but rather come together and understand that whatever divides us should unite us by blood, and that we should be able to guard each other in one way or another and not persecute one another, and create this kind of environment where we lose our meaning as human beings and we move into being into savagery, into hunting each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean.
All right.